that really made you, like leave everything in South Africa and come to India by yourself? It must have been something that really moved you.
Well, Jai Gurudev, and it's such a pleasure to speak from this point of view and this mindset to many people. The most important turning point in my life that I realized that this is my path was when the most important thing was taken away from me, or what I had thought the most important thing was, and that was belonging to parents, having a family that is functional. And in all of this turmoil, I would run to the temple, I would run to different temples around our area, just doing seva, just washing the deities, doing abhishek, helping those gurus or those priests set up the puja. I might have been like maybe, I think 8 years old when this whole thing started. And as I became a teenager, the situation as family was getting worse. So then my parents got divorced, and I had moved to Durban. So originally I was from Johannesburg, and then I moved to Durban where my grandmother stayed, and they were very traditional, religious Hindu people. So I joined the local temple there, and it became my focus. Like, I would even not go to school. I would go to the temple. I would go dressed in my uniform to school, and I never went to school for an entire term, because that's how much, because even though our family was dispersed, it kind of dissolved. I was still sent to my grandmother's house, where I had this uncle that was just as bad. So he was heavily, in all of these toxications like drugs and alcohol, and he used to always pick on me, and he used to hit me, and I was small that time. I was like 10 or 11. And he used to hit me because I used to go to temple. But even though all this used to happen to me every single weekend and every single time, I never thought, not once the thought came like, don't go to temple. The thought always came, fight this situation and go to temple. So I used to go to temple during the day when I was supposed to be at school. I used to sit in the temple. I used to be washing the windows, washing the floors. The temple officials knew that, I would come and do work, clean the yard, pick up the weeds, and an entire term passed in school, and I had failed the entire term. I got 0 for all subjects. And then they came home and they informed my grandmother, this is what's happening. And she was shocked, because she knows that she packs my lunch and she irons the uniform and she does all these things for me to go to school, but I never went to school. And at 2:30 p.m. I used to come back home because I used to act like I'm coming from school. So this continued for many number of years. This whole transition happened in 2000, year 2000. So you can say for 8 years, till 2008, this happened. In 2000, and when I was 16, I don't really remember the year. When I was 16, I got kicked out of my grandmother's house because my uncle had shot me in that time for going to temple. He shot me. I even have the scar right here. It's like on my leg. So I left home that night, and the neighbors complained, and he went through the process of all of these things, and he got locked up. But I never returned back to that house. I ran away to temple. I stayed in the temple for a few days. I literally left home with a bin packet, with a garbage bag, just a few t-shirts and whatever. But then I was telling Guruji recently when he came for Holi that all these experiences, there wasn't a moment that I blamed God. There wasn't a moment that I questioned it. I was just questioning or blaming the people why they are behaving like this towards me. I used to read a lot, Gita, Bhagavatam, but I couldn't understand because I was so young. I just used to read it like a storybook. And I stayed in the temple for a few years, and then I got managing other temples around Durban. I used to help them teach the people puja, teach them the structure of puja, teach them how to run a temple. And I built many communities like this, religious communities, up till 2009, where I just knew that I had to leave South Africa now, and I had to go on a journey where I needed to experience more and probably learn more and learn it from India. So I decided to come to India. And when I came to India, it was crazy because I came to India. Nobody knew I was coming to India until the morning I left. I phoned my mother, I phoned my father. I said, it feels so weird to even say mother and father. You know, I don't have that feeling of mother and father, but I just phoned to tell them this is what I'm doing, and everybody was shocked. Like, how could you do this on the morning that you're leaving? So it was 10 o'clock. At 1 o'clock was my flight. I phoned them at 10 o'clock in the morning. At 1 o'clock, I'm leaving South Africa. And I always knew, because people used to ask me, through building all these communities in Durban, religious communities, they used to always ask me, have you ever been to India? Have you ever been to India? Because you're so good. And people get so carried away with the outside of, way things look. And I always told them, if I go to India, I'll never come back. And that's literally how I never went back to South Africa.